It was over 4 kilometers from the trailhead. We didn't have cell reception. He looked very tired. He looked not how he was 5 minutes prior. Something came over me and it was, we need to get him out of there. We need to get him out of there as quickly as possible. Hi, I'm Kaya. My dog's name is Murphy. He passed away on a hike, and this is why the Murphy bag was created. I've always had a passion for animals. Dogs have always been a part of my life. Murphy was a pivotal part of my life. He had the personality of a dog that I've never met before. We always called him a professional kleptomaniac.
Murphy.
Because he would steal absolutely everything. He was a goofball. He lived life to the fullest. He always kept us laughing. He loved life, and he was a humongous reminder to love life and make every day count. We have been on countless hikes together. He was always up for an adventure. He was a parkour specialist. He would always find his own way. He would always go off the beaten path and would always come back to the trail. It was October 18th. We went with my cousin Molly to Junction Creek Falls. I let her know that this was a longer hike. It was just about 14 kilometers, and you had to cross a river right when you got there, and then once you get there and once you round that corner and you can start hearing the water and you can start hearing the power of the waterfall, and then getting there, you're like almost awestruck. It's so beautiful there. There was nobody on that hike, and that's a lot of the time the way that you want to go out and experience nature when you're going out that far. We got to the waterfall and we spent some time there and threw some rocks for Murphy and let him swim and let him explore, and you know, we had really good chats and stuff, and then it was time to go back. At that point, there were no signs that anything was going wrong with Murphy. He was still his happy-go-lucky self. I didn't think anything of it. So we had been walking for probably about 2 kilometers at that point. Murphy was doing his Murphy thing, bombing around, and we walked down this kind of rocky slope, and I didn't see him, so I called for him. He was standing at the top of the rocks. He looked very tired. He looked not how he was 5 minutes prior. He came over to me, his head was hanging low, and then he laid down. At that moment, I started thinking, what is going on? In my professional experience, one of the first things that we go to look for is their gum color, especially when they are presenting in the way that he did. I went to check his gum color, and he was pale. The reason why his gums were pale is that he was bleeding internally somewhere, and I had no idea where. And that is when panic completely set in for me. It was over 4 kilometers from the trailhead. We didn't have cell reception. Murphy was 90 pounds. He was a big golden retriever. Something came over me and it was, we need to get him out of there, and we need to get him out of there as quickly as possible. For me, picking him up and holding him this way was not feasible. To get Molly to help me to put him over my shoulders, that also wasn't feasible. We both tried to carry him together. I took his back end, she took his front end, she would take his front end, I would take his back end. Nothing like that was working until we figured out my hiking backpack. Extend the straps back out as far as possible, his legs sticking out of the straps, and I had his legs over the top of my shoulders to make sure that I could steady him. It was very uncomfortable for him, very uncomfortable for me. But we just had to keep moving, and we kept moving as quickly as possible, and I kept saying to Molly, look at him and please tell me that he is okay. Please tell me that he is still breathing. His head was just sitting on top of my head, or it would fall to the side. But in that moment, we were not prepared. I was not prepared to get my best friend as quickly as I could to safety. And that was so scary. And after hiking as long as we did, and finally getting to the river and crossing the river and being able to see the car and knowing that after that we could try to move as quickly as possible to get him to where he needed to be. You could see in his eyes how tired he was. We drove as quickly as we could. He died moments before getting to the vet clinic. We were pulling up to the vet clinic and he died. The whole cliche of a perfect storm, of not seeing a single soul on that hike. There was no other people hiking. We didn't have cell reception, and I was ill prepared for that moment. And that was the worst day of my life. Murphy was my soul dog. And I miss him so much. A few days after, I had a dream, and I had a dream that I was carrying a dog on my back. It wasn't him, but I was carrying them in an apparatus or something to that effect. And I remember I was talking to my mom, and I said, "Mom, I had the strangest dream last night." At that moment, the Murphy bag was born, and that is where the fuel is for this bag. This bag is after Murphy. This bag is to ensure that nobody else experiences the day that we did and not have to think twice. Because when every moment counts, you carry them home. Always. So this bag was inspired by Murphy, but it's made for yours.